the fastest way to make money from F&B is not to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Is tough. I think F&B is definitely one of the toughest industry to be in. And you can see it. There's a lot of data showing that, recent data in Singapore, I think now it's the 23, 24, 25, maybe the third consecutive year, almost 50% of restaurants in Singapore close. That's tough.
It's a very high turnover industry.
Yeah. Means by simple arithmetic, your chances of success is 50% only. By simple arithmetic, obviously it's more complex than that. On top of that, the people that survive doesn't mean they succeed. You know what I mean? It's just that they have not closed yet, right? And a lot of people go in undercapitalized. Like I mentioned earlier, if you think you need 300, you need 600. If you think you need 1 million, you need 2 million, right? For many reasons. Because it gives you a bit of confidence and backing. Because if you're undercapitalized at the start of the business, you don't have the cushion to fix a problem that could be fixed. Maybe it's a fixable problem, but because all you're looking at is your payroll, you don't have money to pay the salary, and that pressure sometimes stress you out to not be able to have a clear head to fix the problem.
Yep. If you ever thought about opening a cafe or restaurant because you love food and coffee, this episode will sound very familiar to you. If you're in F&B or thinking to get in, you probably have more questions than answers. How much money do we really need to start an F&B restaurant or cafe? Why do so many outlets fail? And how to actually build a restaurant that actually lasts? Roy entered the hospitality world driven by curiosity and a belief that Kota Kinabalu's F&B scenes deserve better execution. What started as a simple coffee and an all-day brunch idea quickly became a real business with real problems. There were operational challenges, constant financial pressures, and tough lessons that quickly forced him to rethink everything. If F&B is on your mind, this episode is for you. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Can you tell us more about your background and why did you start F&B business in Kota Kinabalu?
I think I'm like any other family. I don't think it's something too out of the ordinary. I come from a small town called Tawau, as you know. I spent 17 years there, and Tawau is a very small community, so everyone kind of know everyone. My childhood, I grew up there, did high school there. But after SPM, I went overseas. I spent about 6 years, around 6 years in the UK, and I come back in 2011. F&B started actually in 2015. We opened our first restaurant. It actually came out of by accident. Prior to 2015, we were doing a development project in Beaufort, and that's towards the end of the project. Kind of not very sure. We, as in like me and my brother, just came back in 2014 at the time. He came back a bit later than me, and we kind of feel like we're not really sure what we want to do next. We kind of want to bring something different to KK. At that time, 2014, when we were planning it, this is like pre most of the restaurants that are around at that, now lah. At the time, there was so much gap to fill in F&B, and we just wanted at the start just to serve coffee. Literally, yeah. So we started planning the outlet as just a coffee shop.
When you mentioned there is a gap between in KK, and can you tell us more about the gap that is?
I think at that time we didn't see it as we coming in to fix a problem. We looking at it more on personal point of view, like, okay, we want to like enjoy some better coffee. We never thought it would be like a proper business. You know what I mean? It's more like me and my brother. We actually went to coffee school in London for like over the holiday for a few days and learn like how to like make proper coffee. And we were thinking like, we just want something kind of like for ourselves, because there's just not at that time a lack of what was in the market that we like. So that's guess how it started, and we didn't at that time think that we were coming in to like resolve this problem. It's more like, okay, me and my brother, we kind of like want something that, you know, it's
That
not
is different.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So you're
Yes.
like, okay, let's just do something, and you know, for mainly for ourselves, but you know, it's been to what it is. Yeah.
Would you say it's a passion project?
It definitely started as a passion project. Yeah. In fact, it didn't even start as a business idea.
Yeah. You started as a passion, like to feel like what is not available,
Yes.
and somehow you are able to share the same type of standard with other people, like with the
Yes.
people in the community.
By accident.
By accident.
By accident. We definitely didn't plan for it to be like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was your first cafe that you
That's right.
started.
That's right. For me personally, again, everyone will be different. For me, is the ability to incite change in whether it's in people or in my case in the environment or in the city I'm at. And I feel very strongly that really bring me fulfillment. You can see from the different businesses I'm in, right? Those are the projects or businesses that really wakes me up.
You
Helps
get
me wake
excited.
up. Yeah, I get
Yeah?
excited
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
whether it's development, because development is a big part of like of change communities. You know what I mean? You change the environment, you create communities,
Yeah.
something changes, right? Same with F&B actually. F&B is in the industry we're in. We like to think that we have made certain level of change in the industry in Sabah at least. You know what I mean? To what extent? I think we play a very small part, but it's still nice to know that in this small part we have done something to change the industry.
You have done something major
Correct.
in this
No, lah,
community.
it's a small part. It's everyone pull a lot of weight. You know what I mean? We are just one or few restaurants.
You're so humble.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, but I think that's really what really tickles me. Like, you know, something that I can do, that I can see visible change. But again, this is not everyone's purpose. There are some
That's right.
people's purpose are different. You know,
Yes.
could be relationship, you know,
Yes.
or whatever that purpose is.
Yes.
Is different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I like to say like success in every person is different.
Yeah.
Like success to a mom, it could be to have a healthy baby.
Right.
Success for a dad, it could be like being a good dad.
Yeah.
Some
True.
success they feel like they need to achieve some goal.
Yeah.
So I think success in every different sense
Yeah.
is different for people.
For sure,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
agree. But collectively, again, you know, obviously with the support of my family and partners, they agree that this project is significant because it's our first project in KK. People kind of like look at this project and say, wow, actually, KK can do
Yes.
this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like in
Yes.
F&B when we started, people think we were crazy to be selling like the type of branches that we sell that people wouldn't expect people to be. But it's not a monetary thing, but people don't expect KK at that time to enjoy that level of food
Yeah.
or ingredient. They
Yeah.
will think that KK, no lah, KK is not ready for this. And we kind of like inspire change in that sense. Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, I do really think you already did a change.
No lah.
as in,
No,
I'm
I
sure
wouldn't
you're
dare
one of the
say.
pioneer that changes the F&B scene here.
We
Yeah.
learn from a lot of people. Actually, we there's a lot of change agents. We acknowledge we have a small part to play, but we also learn from a lot of people.
Correct.
And a lot of the people that we learn from, in fact, are failed projects. Some of them friends, some of them like big, you know, now they're very established. In some way, unfortunate, we see some of our friends like fail in industry, but we take every lesson as a learned opportunity.
Correct.
Right? Whatever little that we have achieved so far is through many people's failures, including our own. And that's how we move forward. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure like all the failures are the hard lessons they have gone through, and actually by listening to their lessons and their failures, you actually skip a lot of time, hard lessons. So you can take all the lessons and change it into something better.
Yeah.
When you change the scene from civil engineering and development and bring it into F&B, what kind of mindset is that, and what did you bring over from? Did you bind both of their like mentality together and make it into F&B scene, or did you like build them entirely different?
I don't think our thought process for that complex at the start. And then as I mentioned at the start, it's just about like, hey, let's have some good coffee in the office.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, okay,
You're tired of it.
enough of like, no offense to like Coffee Bean, but that was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what was jamming,
Yeah,
like Coffee
yeah,
Bean.
yeah.
Some of the early pioneers before us was like October Cafe, you
Yeah.
know, so that was like the jam at that time. And you know, we were like, okay, let's try to like do something that we like, kind of mentality, rather than really strategizing it as a business, which a bit naive for us at the start. But I would say as we grow and as it is today, I think there is a balance. I think from being trained as an engineer or very like scientific or you know kind of like mindset, everything is numbers to you. Everything is data. In the past, we used to use a lot of this because as the engineer training is you try to not be emotional. There's not a lot of emotion
Yes.
in decision making. It's all numbers. Everything is equatable. It's risk, is factors, or it's
It shows everything on the spreadsheet.
correct. These are figures is just data. Quite dangerous if you purely just use data to make decisions. There is a need of a bit of combination of what I would say is maybe wisdom to interpret the data or to figure out why the data is showing certain things. And I think that one can't be taught. You just have to.
In the sense, it needs experience.
You need experience, or you need to learn it the hard way.
Yes.
There's no.
Yes.
It's not something I can teach because every decision or every project is case by case. It's all different. There's so many variables. Yeah, it needs a lot of wisdom. It needs a lot of wisdom.
Okay, so wisdom and data.
Correct. Yeah.
How would you weigh them? Like how many percent wisdom, how many percent of data?
Wisdom is taking into account all the data, 100% of the data. But how you interpret why the data is showing as it is, that's wisdom. So it's not like you're ignoring certain data and you use gut feeling or whatever. It's not like that. It's like you just need to take account 100% of the data and to analyze within yourself like why is the data showing it as it is, and what's the variables and the conclusions you're deriving out of the data, and that's wisdom.
Okay, can you give us an example where you can use wisdom and data in your F&B?
Can, sure. So a good example is like most of our outlets we struggled quite a bit during lunchtime because it's dinner centric, right? So many attempts we try to like do like special lunch menu or whatnot to promote lunch hours, right? If you only look at the data, you would say that lunch is not worth the effort because you have tried it and this is the lunch sales that is giving you because you have tried it. And if you just use data as indicator, you might come to a conclusion that lunch is not worth the effort to do. Then you better don't do it.
Correct.
Because the data shows it,
Yes,
you have done so many different menus, and the data showing that no matter what you do, it's not coming in, right? Wisdom is looking at that data and understanding or trying to attempt to understand why is the data such. Why is your lunch not coming in even though you have attempted like different lunch menu, different type of lunch pricing, and understanding why the data is showing such and deriving a decision moving forward to improve the future data or the future outcome. If it's purely on data, very easily we're like, you know what, we just open for dinner, forget lunch.
That's right.
Because it's not worth it.
right.
Like you try so many years already, like forget lunch, just forget it.
Yes, that's right. Can you tell us what one thing you learned in this data, like especially for lunch?
A lot of it is out of your control. That's one thing I learned. Secondly is human behavior. It's catchment, it's work environment. As compared to a bigger city, lunch is not about eating a food. It's about networking. It's about going out with your client. It's about maybe having lunch with your boss or catching up with a colleague. But in KK, not to say that that doesn't exist. The majority of people having lunch is to eat lunch.
Yep.
You know, the idea of networking and going out with clients and is minimal. It's not to say it doesn't exist. It's just not much. And if you put that in context of what it means when people are out for just to eat lunch, they would go to obviously their comfort food, which is the local food, which is something that they're comfortable with.
Yep.
And sometimes there's cravings to be fixed. But you would never have, not never lah, we will seldom have that kind of mentality if you're, say, working in a corporate office in KL.
Yes.
You know, if you crave char kway teow, you know, you won't like go out of your way to find char kway teow. You'll be like still within that area, say, okay,
Correct.
get a colleague and say, hey, where you guys like feel like, and you wouldn't think of a place that is like super far away because you have a craving, right?
Yeah.
You would just like find somewhere depending on the time
Closer.
you have and like just grab and go or just sit down for 45 minutes. But KK is different. KK, people follow their craving. If
Yeah.
they feel like Sangyo Man, they'll drive all the way to Lindas
They'll
and like
go.
have their Sangyo Man, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
or wherever their fix is. And that's my analysis of lunch. So it's a difficult game to fix lunch. We haven't have a solution yet. There's space for wisdom to come in
Yep.
and
Yep.
to interpret and to strategize.
Yes. Have you like tried to compare? Do you interpret them fairly or like
It's different.
it's different?
Yeah, I think it's very, very different. We study the West Malaysian or KL market, even Singapore market, quite in depth the last 4 years, 5 years, because we always wanted to explore going to those areas. I'm no guru yet lah, because we have not yet have any outlet in any of these cities. In KK, I would say that we have the tougher bit of almost every factor that you can think of. Number one, the cost of goods is higher than any of these cities because imported goods, I'm saying, like they come through either Singapore or KL and then travels to KK. So everything is at least 20-30% higher at least. In terms of salary, you're not much cheaper than KL actually.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, there are people going to KL for lesser wages just for the city experience. So then, you know, salary in some extents can be higher in certain position and certain extent. It can be higher than that of KL, right? The only difference I'll say that rent is definitely cheaper in some instance. It is cheaper here. KL, the pros there is they also have purchasing power,
Yeah.
which not to say here doesn't have. We doesn't have the numbers of
Yep.
people who can have the purchasing power,
We don't have the volume.
the volume,
Yeah.
or the population.
Population, correct.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you completely underestimate in F&B scene, in operation wise?
You just like can't see it coming. Yeah, everything from cost management to revenue projection to people management to everything you can think of is tougher than you think it is. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about like your first cafe, how it started?
Our first cafe opened for 7 years.
7 years, okay.
And then we rebranded it to Kingsley, what Kingsley is
yes,
today. Yeah.
yes.
The one that closed down is our second outlet, which
Okay.
is Roots, which is a local food kind of joint in Gaya Street.
Okay.
On Adelphi, the first cafe, we had a good run actually. In fact, until today, I still get a lot of like people telling me, including my partners, like, oh, they miss like Adelphi and Co.
Yeah.
Why do you close it?
Yes.
Like, you know, we like whatever dish. A lot of people think that we close because we're not making money. Actually, the month before we closed was our best month
Your
in,
peak.
in 7 years. So
Wow.
we actually closed at our peak. But I think for that is not necessarily a business decision for that outlet. It's more like a group strategy
Okay.
because we wanted to pivot a bit of coming back to why we're doing it. And we always feel that we have a place to play of being a change agent to kind of like push and pull the industry in the upwards direction, you know,
Yep.
although we are just one party, you know what I mean? But the day that we see that we have the inability to do so, then I feel like at least for me at the personal level, we're not doing what we have set out to do. And that was Adelphi. Adelphi came out to a very comfort zone. We were doing okay financially, but we feel like we are stagnant. We were stagnant for many years, and we just couldn't push through
To
the
another
breakthrough
level.
to another level. And we feel like, obviously, we have a lot of behind the scenes discussion of like opening another outlet or just renovating, keeping the brand and whatnot. This is like a lot of discussion. Yeah, at the end, I decided to, I think it's the prudent choice to change the name, but we keep the name Adelphi as the overall brand of the group, rather than Adelphi being a restaurant in Damai.
We want to move on to a little bit about the financial part. Can we know more about like how much capital did you start when you first started Adelphi?
Adelphi, I think we started, again, this is not financial advice, but whatever I share, don't do that, because that's not how you should do
Yeah.
it. I think we spent about 600,000 or 700,000 on the whole startup of Adelphi, which is crazy, which is a lot of money lah. Even then and now is a lot of money, and a bit naive. We were over top of our heads on the so-called story that we're trying to build, and it was went above board lah. So we used a lot of local timber for the furnishing of the space, the tables, to even those times we have like all these boards that we plated on, and these boards are like natural wood from what forest, wherever,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and we like carve out these nice boards for like plating and spend crazy amount of money, and we customize our espresso machine. Not the best decision, but that was how we started. Yeah.
So these are all self-funded, or do you raise from partners? How did you come along with this finance?
It was self-funded because, as I mentioned, this was towards the end of our development project. So we had a bit of like funds to figure something out, and again, going into the next development will cost a lot of money, and at that time it wasn't the correct timing. Yeah, so we just roll over from our development projects.
Right. What are if you were to do it again,
Okay.
would you focus on what of the things that you would focus on?
It's very hard to say, because if I didn't go down that journey at that time of like 10 plus years ago, we also don't know what the outcome would be, and whether whatever that story would be would
Yeah,
stick.
yeah.
Obviously, there's some obvious costs that I wouldn't have spent right? I think the key is the margin, the margin of surplus for capitalization. So whatever you think you need to start up,
You probably don't need it.
no, you need a lot more.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so if you think a startup of a cafe is like 300,000, you better prepare at least double that.
Yeah.
That would be my insight lah, I would say.
So is there any like the biggest hidden cost that new operators probably don't budget for?
I think the obvious I mean, I'm no guru in this, but I think some of the obvious ones is you must account for depreciation, because things would wear and tear.
Yeah.
Your change of equipment, your repairs, your maintenance, it's more than what you think it would be. Also, the starting up period of loading up the goods. At the start, if you're brand new, you don't have any suppliers that know you. They
Yeah.
will not give you good terms, and you have to cash out a lot of to purchase the goods at the start.
It's somehow like a credit.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Like
Yeah.
like now we start any restaurant, we on that area we
You
don't
need
need to spend.
credibility.
Yeah. We just sign a form, and like suppliers just throw goods at us, and because we build up that credibility.
Yeah.
But at the start it was tough. It was tough to convince suppliers that, hey, we're good for it, and we'll make sure you get paid.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of costs, especially if like some of our outlets have a lot of wine, for example. you have to load up a wine rack, it costs a lot of money. Yeah.
What are the break-even points? Like, how long does it take for you to break even?
Most people won't believe it, but is I'll say concept to concept lah. To some extent, a lot of our outlets take very long to break even, and to justify it is a lot of outlets are open for different reasons, right? And not every outlet is purely supposed to be like money printing outlet. You know what I mean? They are concepts for that. They are, you know, a lot of, as you can see, like big brands that really are money printing machines. You know, they really can make a lot of money. But for us, is we are more curating for a bigger picture agenda. For example, Pound is a great example. So when Pound, the developers talked to us, there was zero F&B in the whole mall, right? And so they partnered with us to create the Pound brand. And when we opened, we were not only the only F&B there, we were the only outlet in the entire floor. So in the level 2 of you know where Pound is, so zero, there was no one there. We were one restaurant there. And the agenda was clear that, you know, we want to create awareness to the mall, to create footfall, and to hopefully bring people in. So the strategy was very carefully curated to like, okay, we're going to bring value. You know what I mean? So the profitability is very low. Because it's by design. You know what I mean? We're not making like super crazy money, but we increase the value of what the perceived value is, like in terms of ingredient, experiences, decoration, and design and whatnot. And in hindsight, I guess it worked. You know what I mean? Within 5 years, today is completely packed. Like all the lots are taken up, and obviously it's not just us. I think developers, they do a very good job in, you know, promoting the mall. But yeah, every outlet has its purpose. So when you look at break-even point and return, there's tangible and intangible parameters. You know, if it's just purely on cash, I would say a good benchmark is less than 2 years. In general, very general for our type of like restaurant. Obviously, if you're talking about kiosks, it's very different. If you're talking about fast food, it's very different. If you're talking about a single product item, it's very very But also, if you're talking about a strategic partnership kind of outlet, then that could be longer. Yeah, that could be longer. So yeah, it's very case by case.
How many years have you been in F&B?
2015, that's 10-ish years. About 10 years.
What is your first hire?
My first hire.
And how did you gauge, like, should I hire this person, or should I hire fast and fire slow, or hire slow and fire fast? You know, what's your concept of it?
I think my first hire is easy. It's Jimmy. Basically, it's my current partner and our group executive chef. So at the time, he partnered as a chef for the outlet.
So he started as a employee.
Yes.
And then later on turned into a partner.
Correct. Yes. Today, if you're asking me this question on what my hiring thinking is today, is very simple. I just take everyone. It's because the industry is so short of people, and you kind of like filter as people work. Right? It's very hard, sometimes quite hard to assess in one or two interview, right? So that's why we have reasonably long probation period. So we kind of like assess them at work and whatnot. So we take in quite a lot quite quickly, but we can be quite ruthless on letting people go. And we learn this the hard way. So I like to think I'm quite empathetical to people. But yeah, I learned it the hard way. Sometimes like if it's not a good fit, it's best for both parties actually. It's also good for the other party, like, look, this is not fit, you better like just move on. And
yeah, I think some people can take hiring very emotionally.
True.
Yeah, because they want the person to be right, and like to stay long and
Yeah,
be
yeah,
loyal.
for sure. Yeah.
What's your thought about it?
Of course, yeah. I think again now I'm a bit more pragmatic. I look beyond. I definitely look beyond loyalty. Doesn't mean that the longer you are with us, the better you are a staff. Sometimes the opposite. Actually, sometimes the longer they think they feel like they have certain advantage or certain whatever credibility and all that, which sometimes is true, but not always. You know what I mean? Sometimes young people or young employees can bring in a lot of wisdom and insight that you never think about before. But in terms of position of leadership or promotion or anyone that have certain level of representation on behalf of the company, whether in terms of administration, management, I think values is the key. I think
Values.
to some extent they need to align with, if not all, most of the company or your own values. I think that's for me quite non-negotiable. Yeah.
What are the 3 values that aligns with your company?
We have 4. So, and these 4 values pretty much reflect my own values. And the first is empathy. And second is empathy, accountability, sustainability, meaning like in a growth perspective, means how sustainable the growth is of the company and whether it's a company or a person, it comes in both areas. And the last is creativity. And I always tell the team that any decision that they make, if they can justify it with this value system, they will have no problem. Like I will have no issue with it, even though it may not be the correct decision. But if they feel that they with this value system and their interpretation of this value system, and they're based on this value system to decide a certain issue or whatnot, I will be behind them, even though the outcome is not favorable.
So does this 4 values comes together, or it's okay, like as long as you have one of the value?
Oh no,
it's
issue to issue. There are some issues that is not related to certain of this value in terms of decision making, right? So, back to the most, I think in most decision making, it's not just a single value. I mean, it will definitely not be all 4. Sometimes not all 4, but there will be definitely more than one value involved in thought processing and decision making. Yeah.
okay. Do you have any like ideas where you will know like this person is a leader by judging with these values? And how would you judge that?
Not really. So, okay, leadership is to everyone different. Different people view leadership differently, and to some extent, even the person can't articulate it, they would have their own definition of leadership. Even they can't say it out, but they would have in their mind, right? And which is okay. It just cannot be too misaligned with what I perceive leadership to be at. Yeah. So, I think that to some extent, they can define it. I think it's like health and fitness. You know what I mean? Like everyone define health and fitness differently. To some people, it's muscle or how they look like. To some people, is endurance, how long they can run.
Correct.
To some people, is looks or whatever. Everyone define like fitness or health differently, and it's fine. You know what I mean? There's no right or wrong. At least I don't think there's a right or wrong answer lah. Some people just define it like how they feel. That's me lah. Obviously, I don't go to the gym, but what I define fitness to be is like if I'm feeling great and I have sufficient energy to get along and I'm confident with myself, I think I'm roughly in the correct path. I mean, you ask my wife, she won't agree lah, but so anyway, so it's a bit like that. So leadership is a bit like fitness in a lot of sense actually. So first of all, leadership is something. It's not a position. It's something that you need to work on. It's like, it's it's not an end result. Like there is no, how to say, like end game to like, oh, I'm fit, done. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's always something you work
Towards
towards.
it.
You know, it's a thing. It's like building a muscle or going to the gym. It's everything you work towards it. Leadership is exactly the same, and it's something that you practice. It's never. There's no finish line of leadership. It's always something you work on, and I think that's the key. So when you say like alignment on leadership, I feel like that is the basis. As long the person understand his own definition of leadership, he understand my definition of leadership, and there's some alignment. I think is a start lah. Is a start. Yeah. Brand is about who you are as a person. Like we got brand identity lah. It's called identity for a reason. Like who thinking of a brand or a company as a person is, who's this person, like what do you like to eat, like who are your friends, or like what's your hobbies, like that's how we so-called brand a person, right? Like who this person is. The company is saying like, who are these guys, like what do they do, like what their values are. These are like,
What's his or her personality
exactly, yeah. So that's brand. Marketing is so big. Marketing is something that we are so I think I'll be honest, it's probably the weakest part of our company, because we don't okay, so my take of marketing is in some aspect branding also, in some aspect communication, in some aspect it's about creating awareness of people who do not know your brand yet, right? And all this lumped together is this big category of marketing. So yeah, so I think for us brand is priority. You may not know how to make friends, that's marketing. But you need to know who you are, right? If you don't know who you are, it's very hard for you to talk to another person and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm Roy, this is what I do, this is what I stand for.
And somehow you attract the person that is alike.
Correct. So I think for us is knowing who we are is very important before we start making friends and telling other people who we are.
All right, we are almost coming to an end. There's always like a few questions that we ask with our guests.
Okay.
So let's say if you have, like, let's say if anyone of our audience, like we have only 1,000 ringgit,
Okay.
what would you suggest for them to do? What is your advice for them at how to start a business in F&B?
In F&B, don't do it. I always tell, no, this is not joking, like I started off as a joke, but now I'm like truly believing this statement. Like the fastest way to make money from F&B is not to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's tough. I think F&B is definitely one of the toughest industry to be in. And you can see it. There's a lot of data showing that, recent data in Singapore, I think now it's the 23, 24, 25th, maybe the third consecutive year, almost 50% of restaurants in Singapore close. That's tough.
It's a very high turnover industry.
Yeah. Means by simple arithmetic, your chances of success is 50% only. By simple arithmetic lah. Obviously, it's more complex than that lah. On top of that, the people that survive doesn't mean they succeed. You know what I mean? It's just that they have not closed yet, right? And a lot of people go in undercapitalized. Like I mentioned earlier, if you think you need 300, you need 600.
Correct.
If you think you need 1 million, you need 2 million, right?
Yeah.
For many reasons, because it gives you a bit of confidence and backing. Because if you're undercapitalized at the start of the business, you don't have the cushion to fix a problem that could be fixed. Maybe it's a fixable problem, but because all you're looking at is your payroll, you don't have money to pay the salary, and that pressure sometimes stress you out to not be able to have a clear head to fix the problem.
Yep.
But if you have a cushion of capital, you kind of like have a clearer head. Like, it's fine. Like
Yes.
we have a trouble few months. It's fine. Let's fix this problem.
Mm.
So having a cushion of capital is very important. But in a nutshell, I don't think anyone should pick it up lightly lah. Especially, just don't do anything that I've done. Just without F&B experience, don't go in F&B as your first. Is a lot of people see the bright side of what we're doing, but actually, a lot of money has been put into it. You know, until today, 10 years, most of the shareholders have not gotten their money back fully. So, is a continuous brand building, is to some extent survival. But the reason why we do it, obviously, at the end, we still feel that there's money to be made. But it's a long game. It's a long-term game. In trading, I just listened to this. I can't remember who was saying this. There's a common saying in trading. It's not about timing the market. It's about the time in the market. It's about trading, right? And to some extent, in F&B, it's kind of the same. You know, it's not about like which year you open and which year you do well. It's about like, if you're building a long-term brand, can you survive the up and down? You know what I mean? And it's really not for everyone. So, and especially not if you only have 1,000 ringgit lah. So I would say if you have 1,000 ringgit, buy some good shoes, some pants and some shirt, and get an interview, get a good job with Adelphi Collective. Joking, but you need that experience, and you need to understand the business before you jump into it. It's really, really, really tough. It's really, really tough.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice.
Yeah.
Get experience first.
Yeah.
So I would like to know how do you look at brand and marketing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roy.
Thanks.
I think that's about for today.
Thanks.
I hope you have like a great session.